It's a bird. It's a plane. It's another fantastic episode of the Fantastic Mr. Podcast. And if you couldn't figure it out today, we're going to talk about the man who's faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound, the infant of Krypton, the man of steel, Superman. So today we're going to talk about Superman. I love Superman, but to me, I feel like Superman's a little bit more unpopular than, say, Batman, Spider-Man, even Iron Man, of course. So I don't know. It's nice to talk about Superman because he kind of started it all, right? The whole superhero business, if you will. So what do you think? Give me your thoughts on Superman.
I think Superman encapsulates in many ways what it means to be a superhero. It's kind of the quintessential being
Good guy.
of a good guy, kind of the Boy Scout
Mm-hmm.
in the early iterations of Superman. Not only is he someone that's trying to figure out his purpose on Earth because he's an alien, he's trying to adapt to normal life as a reporter,
And a
but
farm boy.
and he has a family. And he's at the same time grappling with the challenges of protecting humanity. But my first thoughts of Superman, I think, came about when I was a kid, and this VHS of the Max Fleischer 1940s serial of Superman. Um, and just the animation style was fantastic. There's some type of rotoscoping, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, I actually just watched the first episode just to kind of refresh my memory on that specific animated show because that's the one I remember as a kid. Like that's the one I watched as a kid.
Yeah, that for me that was what I think got my kind of interested in Superman, and then became the Superman from the animated series, which is in the same realm of like Batman, the animated series. So
Mhm.
that particular Superman, the live action, I never really delve into. I've only watched the
Really,
first one from
in the 70s.
from the Chris Reeve portrayal of Superman. So I've only seen the
Interesting.
first one. I've seen clips of the other. How many are there? Four.
Yeah,
I think there's four.
yeah,
But I heard that it got increasingly
bad.
not as good.
Mhm.
But again, despite that, I haven't seen the Donner movies.
Mhm.
I know the music of John Williams and
Oh man, that score.
his themes. As it's not a surprise, known for Star Wars and Indiana Jones and Superman. Just very bombastic, classical superhero music,
Yeah, I
and
agree.
like that theme would not fit, in my opinion, with the tone of the Zack
Anything.
Snyder uh,
Oh no,
universe.
I agree. I don't
It
even
wouldn't.
honestly.
People want that for some reason. I don't
I
understand.
mean,
Just
I,
just to shoehorn it in because
I
it
was gonna
would
say yeah.
satisfy some type of nostalgia. But if it's not going to fit, then why include it? They tried to do that with the uh, Danny Elfman Batman theme from '89 to include a little Easter egg
Mhm.
in Justice League with the Batman theme. It was very subtle, but I'm glad they didn't like full blown. It
But
was a full blown reveal of of the theme from '89.
it's like on Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness when you see Professor Xavier and you hear that X-Men animated show little snippet, and like it works better for that because Marvel is like the melting pot of serious slash not serious, right? They can do that pretty well, but when it comes to DC, especially Zack Snyder's DC, it's like you really have to work it out in a way that it just has to sound great or don't put it in there at all. Which I'm not opposed to them like trying to figure out that balance of getting that John Williams, score in there somehow. But
It's
like I
more of a
said,
classical style of music score, I'd say. That
yeah,
John Williams, symphonic.
1970. I think it was 1978 when that movie came out. Like I know it was right time as Star Wars. That might have actually came out before. I'm gonna look it up because I didn't. Superman 2025. I'm just kidding. We'll talk about that later. Well, it's giving me every other Superman but the one I need. Superman Returns. That was a cool movie. Superman. There he is, 1978, year after.
Oh wow.
Year
Yeah.
after. I've seen the first two movies, and I really really like them. I don't care for Margot Kidder as Lois Lane, but I get it. She's kind of like the she's not very. I don't know how to explain it. She's very, she's not attractive to me, right? And the Lois Lanes that have or the actresses that have played Lois Lane, it's like to me they could have found somebody else, but she was funny. Like she's a pretty good actress. Like and whenever he catches her in midair and he's like, "I got you," she's like, "You got me. Who's got you?" Because he's flying. It was kind of funny.
Yeah, it has that charm of the 70s and
Mm.
early 80s in terms of the dialogue,
And,
kind of
and I think
cheesy, if
that's
you want to
where
call it that.
Margot Kidder kind of comes in. It's like, yeah, she's not conventionally attractive, right? But she has the acting chops to play Lois Lane because Lois Lane is very like gung ho, stubborn type, and that's what the
she's
kind of she plays.
she's not a damsel in distress as
Exactly.
many female
Yeah.
characters in back in the day or even today are portrayed in film.
Yeah.
So she's hardcore.
Okay, so you said that you don't really know the movie, so then, because I've never actually watched Superman the animated series, I've never seen an episode. I've only seen like clips of it when it was. So I know they did a few couple crossovers with Batman, um, but I never really watched any of them. So like, what is your favorite animated series then?
And when it comes to DC,
Yeah, no, when it
probably
comes to Superman.
probably have to be Superman from the animated series and
Oh, okay.
in the same timeline as like Batman
Batman.
animated
Yeah, that makes
series.
sense because you like Batman, so it just makes more sense
Yeah,
to like the same thing, and especially if it's in the same universe.
just consistent. And that theme, I could think of hum the theme in my head right now, and it's as memorable as the animated series Batman theme, which had lots of
Hmm.
influence from the Danny Elfman
I don't know if
score
I've
from
heard it.
the
I should listen to it
89.
after we're done here.
It's pretty good. But I think the first time I saw Superman and Batman together within that kind of crossover that you mentioned, let me look up the movie. I think it was called, let's see, animated
The
movie.
clip I watched, I think Batman and
Look it up.
Superman had switched places, and Bane was beating up Batman real bad, and then it turned out it was Superman. Does that sound familiar to you? In Batman's uniform?
Hmm. The one I'm thinking about is called the Batman Superman movie, and it has Lex Luthor and
Oh no.
the Joker in it. The whole no, and then the first animated iteration of the Justice League that we see is within that same universe as
Uh,
well.
well, it's not the first animated iteration because you got the Super Friends. Do you ever watch Super Friends?
No.
I did. I watched Super Friends a lot. And it was like the Justice League and then a girl and her dog.
Hmm.
It was really weird. But I watched it. It was the one where it's like Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman and
Uh,
Robin.
okay. I think I might
Yeah.
have seen some clips then.
Yeah, and the Legion of Doom and all that stuff. But I never like I watched it a lot as a kid. Super Friends. Now that you mention it, I totally forgot about them. Okay, so real quick, let's just talk about where Superman came from, right? Because we all know, I mean, his original comic book in 1938, which is called Action Comics, which featured Lois Lane and Zatanna, which is a magician. I don't know what the comic is about exactly, but it came out and it's the infamous like yellow cover with him lifting a car over his head. And that's kind of where it started. And then one thing I wanted to mention was the radio show. I don't know if you've ever actually sat down and listened to the radio show before.
No, don't you own it though?
I do. Thank you.
Is
I
it on
do own
vinyl
it.
or is it CD?
No, it's on cassette tape.
Cassette tape, even better.
Exactly. Way better. So I went to this, and I've probably told this story on here before, but I went to a comic book store in Little Rock and I was looking, they have a lot of cool stuff, but they have a bunch of stuff in glass cases. And I was just kind of like perusing. And then it just like, I saw it and I was like, oh my God. And I saw 15 written on it, which I took to mean $15. So I was like, "Can I please look at this?" And they pulled it out for me, and it was all good. It's in perfect condition, except one of the tapes. Like the cover, not the cover, the one of the pieces of the case comes off real easily, or it's missing. I can't remember exactly. So it's not complete, right? But it was only $15, and the tapes all still work. So I listened to the first cassette, and it's very interesting because I don't know how they portray Superman in the comics as far as like his backstory, but I know that in the radio show, he's not, an infant that gets sent to Earth. He comes down as an adult, right? And actually, let me read you this excerpt from the show. Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman. Yes, it's Superman, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Superman, defender of law and order, champion of equal rights, valiant, courageous uh, fighter against the forces of hate and prejudice, who disguised as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way. Sounds like the Superman we all know and love, right? But instead of being a baby, he just comes down as an adult, and he's like, all right, well, what am I going to call myself? And then he comes up with Clark Kent, and then he's like, now what? I guess I'm going to have to, become a super. Basically, say I'm going to have to, become a superhero. Like he just kind of like comes up with this in his head in like the first 5 minutes of the radio show, and then he just becomes Superman. And that's the end of that story. It's really cool though to listen to it as a radio show because I don't know if anybody has ever sat down and listened to a radio show, but it's like
I should.
listening. Yeah, it's like listening to a TV show, right? And the only other time I did that, I listened to a radio show version of Lord of the Rings, and it was 3 hours long, just like the movies. It was just a radio version of it. It was really cool.
Wow. How long did that Superman radio show go on? Do you know?
2 years, but let's see, February 1940 to 42 was a 15-minute children's serial, initially broadcast 3 times a week up until May 1941, then 5 times a week. And it's interesting because like you see pictures of the whole family next to the radio listening to radio shows, and I could just imagine that's what they did for Superman. And then August 1942 to 49, a live 15-minute children's serial that aired Monday through Friday over the Mutual Broadcasting System. And then in the 49, they have a 30-minute children's series 3 times a week. And then 49 to 50, another 30-minute series targeted to adults, which aired on Saturday evenings on the American Broadcasting Company. Oh, I won't listen to that one.
They probably tackle more mature themes.
Yeah.
I'm
And
guessing.
then 50 to 51, 30-minute children's series that aired. So they had a few different ones. Um, so yeah, it was kind of neat to go back and listen to that radio show.
Is the theme song similar to the one from the Fleischer
I honestly
series?
cannot remember if there even was a
Like this
theme song.
similar era? I mean,
I
they didn't
don't.
have any music.
I was gonna say I don't remember there being one, but I could be wrong. It was mostly just talking, right? But I'm sure there was. I just need to listen to it again. I know that you can listen to it on Spotify
Oh, cool.
because I had played it for for my students at one time. Um,
What did your
but what,
students think?
they didn't care. They didn't care.
How long
So
are the episodes?
about
20
15
minutes?
minutes. About 15
15?
minutes. Yeah.
Probably fit back in the days, like in terms of radio programming. That's kind of what you were
Yes.
limited to.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like news programming. You got to
Yep.
have certain things, certain times, so that other things can be. But
What,
yeah, about
what do you
15
think?
minutes.
I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not the biggest Superman fan or nut, I guess you could call it, and I
Hmm.
mean that in the best way possible, most respectful way possible. That are enthusiasts about Superman, but like, how do you think audiences react to Superman coming to Earth as an adult versus this baby that is discovered by two humans and then grows up to become
Honestly, I think
Superman?
the second story, the coming to Earth as an infant, being found by, Martha and John Kent, um, is way more interesting than him just coming to Earth and being like, all right, what do I do? Okay, I have to do this now. And like, I don't know how people think. Like I said, Superman is probably one of the most recognizable, I think, characters, period, but not the most popular. And that's why I think it's hard to um, adapt and then you make money off of Superman. Now, hopefully, James Gunn can do it. We'll find out. But yeah, I think the coming to Earth as a baby and is more interesting, because then he's raised in Smallville as opposed to just landing there and being like, all right, well, I gotta become human, basically.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I've never heard of iteration of him just coming to Earth with some mission
yeah,
and being an adult already.
it is interesting because it's like, I think Krypton was around during the radio show, and I think that whole background's still the same. And it was funny watching the animated show because it talks about Krypton being a green planet that floats in the heavens, and then it said that quakes threatened Krypton so bad that Jor-El sends Clark in a ship hurtling towards Earth before it just blows up.
Hmm.
And I don't know, like, I don't know any quakes that can make a whole planet blow up, but maybe Krypton's just smaller than Earth. Maybe, I don't know.
So could Superman fly in the radio series, or could just jump from building to
No, I
building
think
like
he
long
could.
distances,
Yeah, I don't think
like the
flying.
Hulk essentially?
Yeah, I think flying didn't happen until I want to say one of the shows. Wasn't it the animated show or something that he
Could have been Fleischer, because I don't recall Superman being able
what
to just seamlessly fly for long periods of time right off the bat.
in the Fleischer one I just watched, he flies towards a building while this like laser beam is being shot at him, and it's so funny because he's like first he's pushing the laser beam away from himself, right? He's just like put his hands in front of his face, and the laser beam just kind of whatever, not hitting him, and then he starts punching it, and it's so funny watching him punch a laser beam. I'm like, dude, that is not doing anything. Like you can just fly and you'll be okay. But it was funny because he's flying up towards it. He's like psh, psh, punching a laser beam. So I'm not really sure when the flying
Yeah,
started.
apparently in the first appearance of Superman in comics in '38, he couldn't fly, but a few years later he could, and he also had other
Yeah,
abilities like heat vision. The reasonings I'm not sure, but I'm just what I'm glancing at on the internet
yeah,
right now. So that's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. He didn't. I know he didn't start off as being able to fly. He could just jump, and that's why they're like able to leap tall buildings in a single bound because now he can just fly.
I don't know if you guys have seen anyone out there has seen it's a wonderful animated bit of Nicolas Cage's
hmm
Superman, and I believe it's animated. I'm pretty sure it is, but it's kind of shows how Superman doesn't just fly; he jumps from building to building. The way it's shot is just fantastic. It kind of tries to capture that rotoscoping technique from the Fleischer movies, but again, people wondering why Nicolas Cage, why is he Superman? Well, he was supposed to be Superman
hmm
uh, with Tim Burton's movie, but that eventually just went out the door for
Yeah,
various reasons. But it would have been interesting to see Cage
as Superman.
as Superman, and I wouldn't have been opposed. I probably wouldn't have been a kid when this came out, but we did see him in a full CGI though in The
Yeah,
Flash.
Flash. Yeah.
It didn't look too good though.
He looked okay. I mean, there's
It was a little jarring amongst the other jarring characters, including Henry Cavill Superman, that looked not the greatest in that whole
it's just a bunch of CGI.
sequence. Yeah, but interesting.
Well, speaking of Henry Cavill, I guess we can because I mean we let's go through some of the movies that or TV shows. So because I found this supermanhomepage.com because I didn't want to look up anything on Wikipedia. Um, but it's got like pretty much everything. Adventures of Superman TV series from 52 to 58, and I think that's the George Reeves. Yeah, George Reeves one. Is that the one, the animated one, or not the animated, live action that flew in animation?
Yes.
Okay, so I thought. Then we have unaired pilots of the Adventures of Super Pup, and it's just like a guy in a Superman costume with a puppy, like a dog for a head or a doggy
Hmm.
head for a head.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
and the Adventures of Superboy. I guess those never aired. Then we have the New Adventures of Superman in '66, Super Friends in '73 to '86. Man, that's 13 years. My goodness, didn't realize it lasted that long. Um, they have Ruby Spears Superman cartoons. I've never heard of this. I'm gonna look that up later. Superboy, which I vaguely remember that, 1988 to 82. Then Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. You ever watch that show with Dean
No, was that
Cain?
that's with Dean Cain though, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Looks kind of
I,
interesting. Is the Clark and Lois, is that what the one on the
yeah,
CW is
well,
called?
Superman and Lois is what the one on
Superman and
CW,
Lois.
and that's kind of what it makes me think of. But in this one, in the newest one, they have like kids and all this stuff. There's Superman the animated series. He looks dope. He's like super like top heavy. He's got very large muscles up top, but he's kind of skinny on the bottom.
Yes, very
Like I don't
exaggerated.
know how. Yeah, I don't know how he walks. Then we have Smallville, which I can talk about Smallville quickly. Well, maybe not quickly. I loved that show. I don't know if you watched Smallville. Did you ever watch any episodes of Smallville?
No, but
So
I'm familiar with
basically, it's
Welling.
Clark. Yeah, it's Tom Welling playing Clark Kent, but it's not necessarily Superman. And Superman, and spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it, Superman doesn't show up to the very end of the show. He doesn't even fly until the very end of the show. And but he's basically, we just kind of watch Clark Kent grow up and have to deal with, you know, bullies and bad people and all this stuff, and kind of goes into the Superman lore as well, which is very interesting. Talks about Jor-El and Fortress of Solitude and all this stuff, and a lot of actual comic characters minus Pete, which is Clark's best friend. He's not part of the comics. Or no, not I'm not I'm wrong. Pete Ross is part of the comics. Chloe is not part of the comics. She's not. She was made for the show.
Hmm.
She's the one, Allison Mack, who started or got known for being in a sex cult, and they kind of stopped talking to her.
Ew.
Yeah, but ran for 10 years. Probably a little too long, but it was. I really enjoyed it, except for season 7. Season 7, I just was like, I had really pushed through season 7.
So what's it compared to like some other show that people might know? It's the tone and is it just like a high schooler essentially going through life?
Yeah, kind of high school drama, but except for you got one of your friends is a superhero, and the rest of them there's just like these. Basically, what happens is a meteor shower happens in Smallville in like the '80s, right? When Clark comes into town, if you will, because part of the meteor shower is the spaceship, and that's when Jonathan and Martha find him. Uh, but in doing that, the meteors are from Krypton. They're Krypton, the planet, right? And so there's kryptonite all over the town, and like the first season especially focuses on that kryptonite and how like the villains of each episode are affected by the kryptonite. So like one episode, is this weirdo guy that collects bugs, but the bugs have been infected with kryptonite, so they bite him and stuff, and they like bite him all over, and he kind of turns into a bug.
Mhm.
Another one is about this girl who's heavy and she wants to lose weight, so she's trying to like make all these healthy smoothies and stuff, and some of the ingredients have kryptonite in them. So when she blends them up together, she drinks it and she immediately turns skinny. So he just kind of has to go through that throughout the entire like first season, and then you start getting into the lore of who is Clark Kent, who is Kal El, and then eventually Kar-El shows up and all this stuff, and who, if you know, is Supergirl.
So when you watched it for the first time, were you always hoping that you'd see Tom Welling don the
Suit
Superman
up.
suit? I
Uh,
felt like that's like a way for to get people to keep on watching, even though you
you
just
just
see
kind
him
of
wear a
hoping.
shirt at the very end with an S on it. But I think that's a way
Well, you see him
to
fight.
keep people watching.
You've seen him fight Apocalypse or Doomsday. Might have been Doomsday. Dark Side? No, it was Dark Side. Doomsday, I think. Like you say, it's like a very far away version, so it's clearly not Tom Welling, but it's just a CGI version of Superman. But for the most part, yes, he wears like red or blue t-shirts with a red or blue jacket. Um, and so
It's funny.
what did you ask me?
Hey,
Oh, did I wait?
what would you think? I mean, were you always thinking and waiting for the day that
Sort
there'd
of
be an
it
episode
was
where he'd be actually doing stuff, but besides just hoking around and talking about high school related stuff in life?
looking around. Yeah, well he
I mean,
has
it's
all
called
of
Smallsville, not Superman, so people can't
yeah,
get too upset.
exactly. And like he had all of his powers except for flight, right? So he still had heat vision, he still had X-ray vision, he still had his strength, he still had his speed. He just didn't have the flight. So like there were times I would be like, hoping he'd fly soon, hoping he'd fly soon. I kind of gathered the fact that we wouldn't see him as Superman until the very end. So I was okay with that. Really, the show in general was just like good. Like back when I watched it, it was on TV. And my friend had introduced it to me, and I liked it, so I went and bought the DVDs. And like as soon as I finished the DVD set, I'd go buy the next one. It's like, and I kept doing that until I caught up. And then when I caught up, I had to kind of wait. Like it would come on TV, but then I have to wait for the DVD to come out. Uh, and my mom, when I told her about it, I was like, "Mom, this shows about Superman, but it's just about Clark Kent growing up in Smallville." And she's like, "Oh, that's cool." And then every time she walked through, she'd be like, "When's he gonna turn into Superman?" I'd be like, "Mom, he will not turn into Superman." But she actually ended up really liking the show as well.
Yeah. See, that's
So
why I guess how was it a successful show in terms of
yeah,
viewership, or
hmm
was it?
yeah, for a long time, and I mean they got
It's
through
a
10
risk, I
seasons.
think. You'd think it's quite the risk to have a show about just Clark Kent,
Yeah,
but without being Superman. So it's a risk that turned into success, and a lot of people still love
but I think that at
that
the
show
time.
and Tom Welling.
Yeah, and I think at the time that was like one of the only things like that was on the air. Really, that was good, right? Because they tried to do several like the Incredible Hulk, which lasted for a little bit, but I think it only lasted a few seasons. The Flash, which I think only lasted one or two seasons, and they've tried and tried. Even what is it called? Oh shoot, get 10 minutes, just so you know. Um, Lois and Clark. That show was on for 4 years, so it's just even this like Superboy TV series, 4 years, 4 years. Superman animated series, 4 years. Smallville, 10 years. I don't know. I guess you're right. It is risky to not have Clark turned into Superman, but um, anyway, I don't know. I think it's just one of the a good show um that wasn't you didn't see very often. 2001 to 2011, right?
Wow. Yeah. Quite the
So
run.
yeah, and then you have Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. Crypto the Super Dog. I never watched it. It only lasted for 1 year. Legion of Superheroes. Never watched that. Ooh, it looks weird though. 2006. Superman's appearances on Batman the Animated Series is what it says. That's funny. And then Young Justice. Did you ever watch that show?
No.
I watched a few episodes and I really enjoyed it, but I didn't get too far into it. There was another Supergirl. Do you watch Supergirl 2015, 2021? Super CW Supergirl?
I think I watched it like the pilot episode on
I
CBS.
didn't care for it.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan, to
Yeah.
be honest.
It
Not
didn't
because of the
like.
production quality. It just I wasn't interested in the characters.
Then there was Krypton. You watched that show, right? Krypton?
Yeah, I did watch that. That sadly only lasted like what, one or two seasons.
Looks like one season,
One.
maybe
Yeah.
two seasons,
Yeah.
maybe two seasons.
I
Um,
enjoyed it for what it was.
yeah,
Again, it was just about characters on Krypton and years before
yeah.
Superman, obviously. So it's about relatives and such, but it was comedic and serious at the same time. But I was kind of disappointed. I forget what network it was
It
on
was
at the
on the
time.
wasn't it on the CW?
Might have been, yeah. But
Because I think it's the same as Superman and Lois,
yeah,
which is
I
the next
enjoyed it.
one.
I enjoyed it more than Supergirl or whatever the
I would enjoy it. I
CBS
think I would enjoy
was.
it more too. I don't know. It's just I didn't care. Like I think I watched the first two episodes of Supergirl and I was like, all right, well, yeah, I'm done.
I think Supergirl isn't. Eventually, we got to see Superman, like the one played by Tyler Hoechlin.
Eklund, yeah,
Hoechlin.
yeah, yeah. That's the Superman and Lois when they finally gave him his own TV show. Because originally he just kind of showed up in these Arrowverse episodes, and I think actually no, I think he did premiere on Supergirl, right? Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
you're right, because he Superman's cousin, blah blah blah.
Mhm.
My Adventures with Superman. Have you watched that yet? That's new,
It's the look the anime
animated one.
Japanese animation. Yes, I've seen like one episode, but
Is
just
it
sadly,
Japanese?
it's the animation for me that doesn't keep me in.
I didn't get through the first episode, and I was like, this is not interesting. Maybe I needed to get through a couple more. I don't know. Anyway, one show I did want to talk about just quickly. It's not necessarily Superman related, but Superboy is involved. Is Titans.
First couple seasons were great.
Yeah, I still haven't finished the fourth season though, because like it made me so mad when Red Hood was introduced, and then he just all of a sudden it was Jason. I'm like, dude, like how come we couldn't get through 4 or 5 episodes and not knowing who Red Hood is? I mean,
I
everybody
mean, if
knows
you're
who
not a
Red Hood.
comic book guy, then
Exactly, you wouldn't know, but
yeah,
you learn in like the first
yeah.
30 minutes of the episode. I'm like, dude,
They
like
rushed a lot of things in that show, sadly.
I think they felt like they needed
But
to.
I feel like Nightwing, like when I think of Nightwing now, I think of that particular actor who's
Oh
also
yeah, I
I
liked
forgot his
him.
name.
Yeah, I forget his name too, but I liked him. I think he kind of embodied the Rob. I don't think he embodied Robin. I think he embodied Nightwing a little better. Like even when I saw him as Robin, I was like, "You look stupid, man. I can't wait till you turn into Nightwing."
Yeah, as we didn't really get to see the Robin that was like kind of the good Boy Scout, listen to Batman type. Of this we just saw Robin when he was at the stage of like I want to do my own thing, F
Well then,
Batman type
well
of
then you see Jason Todd
persona.
as Robin, but
Yeah,
not for very long.
yeah.
Um,
He gets killed off instantly by
yeah.
the Joker off camera.
Oh, off camera, not even on the episode. I don't think. I think it happened like in the middle of 2 episodes.
Yeah, I
I
just
don't
like a
remember
proper adaptation of the
the Red Hood.
the comic book where you see Robin get beat to a pulp and rated
Well,
R,
oh,
maybe
rated R.
make
Okay.
pushing it to rated R, PG-13.
Well,
I want to see that comic book adapted to live
there's Under
action.
the Red Hood, which is pretty good. And
That's a
you
good one
see,
too.
and then also Arkham Knight, which is a video game. Really good. Like if unless you know, you just it's really good at being like you don't know who this person is, and you kind of figure it out, I think. But it's a good story in the game. Okay, and then we have some movies. You want to talk about some movies? I know how much you
Sure.
love the movies. You talk about them all the time. Can't stop you from talking about them. I'm just kidding. Um, so we had four movies that came out 78, 80, 83, 87. And I've seen the first two and they were cool. Superman the movie is the one where he rewinds time by spinning around the earth really fast, which is totally how that works. You just spin the earth around its opposite orbit and you go back in time, I guess. Superman 2 is a little better. That brought in the Kryptonians and the Phantom Zone and the little square thing where they're like, and they're flying towards the air. And the cellophane S that he throws on them.
Oh
And
yeah, I have to
yeah,
look that scene up.
I think that's just part for the movie. Like he rips off his S, but it's just like clear. It's like a piece of like saran wrap, and he throws it on one of the Kryptonians, and it kind of like slows him down for a second. Superman 3, which I think had Richard Pryor in it, and Superman 4, which I've never seen those yet, but I
Is
do own
Superman
them.
4 the one with the
It's
evil Superman
the
or what?
Quest for Peace, Bizarro Superman. You mean?
Bizarro, yeah.
Let's see.
You look cool as
He did.
Bizarro.
Well, he was in Smallville. It's just called Bizarro. It wasn't called Bizarro Clark or anything. Let's see.
So the next live action would have to be Superman Returns, I would imagine, in terms of
Well,
theatrical movies.
yeah, they did have the Donner cut of Superman 2, which I'm actually interested to learn about more, but I'll look at that later. They have a Superman 2 restored international cut, an in-depth 6-part review of the fan-made restored international cut of Superman 2. Weird.
Fans always restoring and
doing
adjusting
cool things.
colors and everything,
Okay,
removing scenes.
then yes, we have Superman Returns, which stars Brandon Routh.
That movie
Um,
didn't do as well as I think people had hoped. Like, people,
yeah, you're right, but
general consensus, I would say, is that there wasn't enough action. Superman was just rescuing planes and getting beat up and stabbed by, uh, who's the guy?
Lex Luthor,
Yes, yeah, who played Kevin
Kevin
Spacey?
Spacey.
Which
Yeah,
who am I liked his Lex.
I did
Because,
too. He was
yeah,
good. I I like Brandon Routh look wise. He's a lot better in like the Arrowverse now because he plays the Atom. He's a lot better in that. He's a lot better in Scott Pilgrim versus the World even. But in this, he looks great. He just didn't do it for me as Superman. Like he didn't talk very much. It seemed, and it's just very I don't know.
it was a continuation of
Yeah,
the
of Superman.
the Donner movies. Do you think that was a mistake? They should have gone in
No,
a fresh direction because they're trying to go for that similar aesthetic and tone and
yeah.
attitude of like the
I mean,
Christopher Reeve Superman.
it's called Superman Returns, so I guess it's the
It
way
was a
to do
gamble.
it. Yeah, and it's fine. It's fine. Whatever. I didn't realize that when I first saw it in 2006. I had just gotten out of high school, so
It
I
had the
didn't.
John Williams soundtrack.
Mhm. Well, I have to watch it again. I need to watch that again.
Just people just don't like, but there's no big battle between Superman and someone. It just pretty laxed. It's
Yeah,
not mundane, but it's not what you think of when you think of a superhero movie these days, where there's explosions everywhere.
yeah.
And
It's just
I
all
would,
this action.
yeah, it's not. I wouldn't call it an action movie, really.
No, I
Really.
wouldn't either. All right, another movie that we've talked about before, and I think you and I both have seen, is The Red Sun with the Russian Superman. What did you think of that movie?
I enjoyed the alternate version of Superman.
Being Russian?
Yeah, and he kills
Yeah,
the
it was
president.
cool. I need to watch that
I
again.
think he kills Stalin, or
Yeah, I think you're
I
right.
think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. I remember you watching it, and you're like, "This is a really cool movie." So I was like, "All right, I'll check it out."
It's
And I
been a
did.
while since I've seen it, but
Yeah, me too.
it's one of the better animated
Better.
movies when it comes to DC, especially.
I tell you, one of the better animated movies when it comes to DC was Injustice: Gods Among Us. The animated movie, you remember? You watched it like right after I did. I'm almost positive. But anyway, I remember watching it and I thought this was so good. Like hardly ever like I love DC animated movies all the way. But like there are very few that I'm like that was so freaking good. And that movie was one of them. Injustice. It's based off the video game if you ever played the video game, which is, made by NetherRealm Studios, who makes Mortal Kombat. But there's also a comic book series as well, and I think that's where they got it from. But
Yeah.
it was a really cool movie. Basically, Superman kind of turns evil.
Does
Okay,
it kill people?
yeah, he kills people. I need to watch that again too. Like I said, I really like those DC animated movies. Marvel could do that. I would love that because those
Yeah.
animated movies, I feel like with those animated movies, they get more freedom, right? It's like anime, which is Japanese, but you get the craziest premises in anime, and so it's like you have a notebook that can kill people, a giant yellow smiley face alien that gives you 1 year to live, and all this. It's crazy. So I feel like most of them are like comic book adaptations and stuff, but they get a little more freedom, I think, with those animated movies. And I'm glad that James Gunn's not going to like get rid of that. I don't even know if he's over that, is he?
He's over everything when it comes to
DC.
films and in the shows, because he's said that the people that play the, like, for example, Superman or Lois Lane, like if they
Oh yeah,
appear in animated, they're going to be voicing the
they're
characters.
animated
So
characters.
that's
That's right.
pretty cool.
It is interesting. I mean, it's kind of like Marvel now with What If. Like, not all of them voice their characters, but most of them do. Okay, let's move on to the movies that you and I know a little better than most. Is the Zack Snyder movies, starting with Man of Steel. I've actually meaning to rewatch this movie.
Yeah, I have it on DVD. Remember when I first saw it in theaters? I think I was enamored
2013.
by the whole beginning sequence. I love a good prologue, or
Yeah.
because I'm a sucker for origin stories.
Mm-hmm. I get it.
Some people are tired of seeing how Superman
things.
came to be and how Bruce Wayne became Batman with the parents dying and all that. But with Superman, I don't think we've seen it, at least in live action on this level that was portrayed by Zack Snyder.
Yeah,
But I liked Russell Crowe. Was it Jor-El? I
Jerome.
think Russell Crowe and Michael Shannon
Mhm.
stole the
The
show in that
show.
movie for me. Henry Cavill was great, but it just, again, his character's written in such a way I don't think
So it's kind of like
there's much
Brandon
room for
Routh.
emotion.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of like any other Superman. They're just Christopher Reeves probably has more emotion than those two do, because he makes jokes and stuff. But like these two don't really do that.
Like these stoic
Yeah, it's
people
just
or beings that are trying to figure out what their purpose is and have all these conflicts that are taking place and a love interest and these
yeah.
obligations that they got to fulfill. Just a lot going on for them. So I could understand why they're not the most jovial or outgoing,
Yeah,
like the Donner Superman making,
yeah.
as you said, cracking jokes.
He cracks with some jokes and stuff.
Yeah,
It's the Zack Snyder movies. Are they where the S meant hope? Is that where that started?
yeah, it was in the scene where Superman gives himself up in quotes and is shackled and just
Yeah,
breaks the handcuffs. He's being interviewed or interrogated by Lois Lane, and she asks, "Wait, what the S
what the S
means?"
means. He
Like
said
she's
it's
like,
a.
"It's like on my planet meets hope," and she's like, "On here, just it's just an
It's just an
S." I
S. Yeah.
love that kind of back and forth because I think a lot of people would just say just an S. So how does that mean
Yeah.
hope? Why isn't it an H then?
Because they don't have. It's a symbol, right?
Yeah, that he got that Superman suit
From the ship.
from the ship,
Yeah.
and
Because it was like
pristine.
special. Yeah, it was special like Kryptonian fabric or some stuff like that. I liked the suit in that. That I think Zack Snyder got rid of the red trunks, which was probably a good idea. I don't think the red trunks did anybody any favors. Whoever wears them. But I really liked. I remember seeing Man of Steel in theaters as well, and I thought it was a really cool movie, like the action and stuff, and just like that heartbreak that Clark slash Superman feels when he's like, the only way that I'm gonna defeat this guy is to kill him. And it's interesting that all he had to do was break his neck, because aren't they aliens? Like I guess if you break Superman or Clark's neck, he'll die too. I guess.
Yeah,
Unless it's just Superman doing it, right? Like if
yeah.
someone tried to do it to Superman, if like I tried to do it to Superman, it might not work, but maybe because it's Superman doing it with his super strength. I don't know. For me that was weird. I was like, how the hell all this happened? Like crazy crashing into buildings and all this Superman using heat vision, blah 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 blah. The only thing he had to do to kill him was break his neck.
You had to break the brain stem.
I did enjoy kind of that emotional turmoil he went through right before that. Because he doesn't want to kill him, but kind of has to.
That's why he was screaming at the
Yeah.
after he did what he did.
Well, even like before he did it, he kind of like you could see it in his face. He's like, "This is the only way this is gonna stop." A few years after Iron Man, and I'm sure several other movies that had come out in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so they were trying to do their thing where create some sort of shared universe, right? And so this is kind of where that started. Was Man of Steel, and then we get Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice. I remember when it was announced that Ben Affleck would play Batman, and everybody cracked up laughing. And I was like, why everybody's laughing? Like, I think he'll make a fine Batman.
In my
Might not
Facebook
be.
memories, I have the picture, the first reveal of Ben Affleck looking down next to, I believe, the Batmobile or something,
Mhm.
and that was the first reveal of Ben Affleck as Batman.
Batman.
So I've kind of remember. I don't know if I remember for Christian Bale what the first reveal was, but for Batman, but that Ben Affleck one was memorable.
I think so too. Mainly because I think it was more memorable because more people than you and me, right, thought this is a joke, right? Ben Affleck. But in my head, I was like, he's an Oscar-winning director and actor. I think he'll be just fine as Batman. We've had worse casting choices before, and he did fine. Like, and I think it's funny how like years later they're like, oh, he's a great Batman. Finally everybody's kind of come around to that way of thinking. It's like, yeah, I knew he was going to be a good Batman. Like he got super huge for the role. His suit was dope. I love his suit.
He was built too, like you could tell he was working out. Ben
Yeah,
Affleck.
oh yeah, totally. And like the only thing about Batman versus Superman I didn't care for was the trailers when Wonder Woman was revealed in the trailers. And I'm like, okay, so usually when they do that, when they reveal something huge like that, it's because they have something even bigger that they're going to show off in the movie. But then I'm like, what is it? Doomsday? He's not that great.
Because Justice League,
I
like
mean,
the
yeah, I guess, but
formation.
you could have waited. It's like Spider-Man in Civil War, and we've talked about this before. They revealed him in the trailers, but then for me, the big reveal was Giant Man, right? Is Ant-Man turning into Giant Man? Like I thought that was what they were trying to hide, which I'm glad they did. It's not like that. Like if you're going to reveal Wonder Woman as part of this whatever trio, then you better have something really good to show me, after that. But overall, I thought it was good. And I like the director's cut. It's like 3 hours long, I think. And then we had 2017, we have the Justice League live action movie, which, went through a bunch of turmoil after Zack Snyder's daughter. Would she die? Or she just
Suicide, I
getting
believe.
okay, yeah.
Yeah,
And then so Joss Whedon took over and
Marvelized it.
kind of screwed it over.
I mean, I
I mean, it
wonder
was
what
a
the tone would have been without
with Zack Snyder,
without the Whedon.
Whedon verse.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know what the theatrical cut from Zack Snyder would have been like if it would have had these jokes
yeah.
here and there. I don't think it would have.
I mean, it was fine when I saw it, but I was like, God, I was hoping something a little better. But I mean, it was fine. It was just fine. So I don't really have much to say about the theatrical cut of Justice League. I do own it. And then next we have Zack Snyder's Justice League. What was your reaction when you heard the news? Like that this was for sure happening?
That the audience, that fans can make a difference and
Yeah,
prompt
but what was
change.
your
I
reaction?
think it was an improvement to the
No, how did
theatrical
you feel
version.
about the announcement
I mean, that's how I felt too. I'm surprised.
that something happened?
Something could happen to the point of Snyder
That's
funding completely himself to make a
that
version
seems
that might appeal to people. But then
yeah.
that became a trend with other Snyder movies, including the Rebel Moon movies, which aren't well received on Netflix.
I
But
haven't
now
seen them.
he's already announced, oh, we're going to have in later this year the extended cuts or the director's cuts. The way that should, I
Okay.
don't know, I don't get it. I just like
Yeah, just
come out
give
with
us the
the one your version right off the bat.
yeah,
Have the
we don't have to worry
studios
about
agree.
this.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just it's a
Yeah.
side rant.
No, you're right. I agree
Maybe
with you. Like,
it's his process. Maybe to make a certain movie, then he gets inspiration after backlash, then he proceeds with the
or
final version.
maybe he kind of like if it were me, I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna make your version, but you have to also let me make my version.
I
And
think
I
that's
think
probably what the case was for Rebel
yeah,
Moon. I think I've been reading.
and like I think Netflix has a little more power to do that than say studios do. And that's probably why he goes with Netflix, right? He because he can kind of do what he wants. It's kind of like Adam Sandler, they made a deal with him and he can make pretty much whatever movie he wants using Netflix. And so, yeah, they don't go to theaters, but, you know, these actors get paid. I was super excited when I heard the news and I was, because they went through different iterations as far as like how it's going to be presented, right? And so they were like 4 hour long episodes, 2 hour long episodes, and then finally they were just like, it's gonna be a 4 hour movie. And I was like, I really wish that they would release it in theaters.
Gee, that would have been awesome to see in
Yeah.
theaters.
So as soon as this was released, I grabbed it. This is Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League Steelbook, and I'm pretty sure it came with a digital copy. But it's got 4 discs, so there's 2 4Ks, 2 Blu-rays, and Steelbook, and it looks dope.
No DVD.
No DVD, just 4K and Blu-ray.
Theatrical cuts and the black and white version are on Max, I believe.
Justice Gray is what it's called.
Did you ever read into why the Snyder cut was 4:3?
That it was just what Zack Snyder wanted. That's the only thing I got out of it. And the
Mm.
only reason I got that was at the beginning of the movie. It says this is in 4:3. That's because this was the director's choice. It didn't say why, from what I remember. It just said, here it is. This is what the aspect ratio is. And it's because the director wanted it that way, and it is kind of weird considering it's a superhero movie made in 2021 or 2020, 2017, really. But,
I just really don't understand that for any reason.
well, it depends on the movie, right? Like if I was going to make a movie that took place even in the 90s, I might do it in a 4:3 just because that's what we had back then. If I really wanted to be like kind of realistic. But this isn't that kind of movie, so I'm not sure his reasoning behind it. I really did like this movie, and I watched it all in one sitting. And one of my friends was like, "I started it, but I didn't finish." I was like, "I watched it in one night."
How long was it? You said 4 hours.
4 hours, 4 hours and 2 minutes, I believe. I don't know. It's just the one.
It's like Return of the King extended.
Yeah, extended version.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the
It doesn't
best
feel
things
like
to
it
come
though.
out.
If you're enjoying it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just that's kind of how I felt with this. Is like 4 hours. So what? I can do it.
You're not thinking about the time.
Not really. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, there were times when I had to pause it to get up and go to the bathroom and stuff, but it's like whatever. I can deal with that because I couldn't see it in theaters.
Yeah.
Um, but I think if I ever open up a movie theater, this would probably be the first thing, one of the first things I show because it deserves a theatrical release. I think.
Get the
Like,
rights to, I guess.
yeah, I mean, all you have to do is purchase the film. I don't think it would necessarily the rights. I mean, yeah, you probably have to get the rights to show it to charge people for it. But I totally would. All right, and then we have Superman Legacy, which is part of James Gunn's DC universe. Which Zach, you can probably talk more about that than I can. I
Yeah,
don't
so
know.
DC's is under the leadership now of James Gunn, and
We've
he's
had an episode about this already,
yeah,
but
we kind
we'll
of
just
talked about
reiterate.
he's the co-CEO of DC Studios now, and Gods and Monsters is the first slate of film and movies or films and TV series. James or David Corn Sweat, he's going to be playing Superman, and I've never seen him in anything else. Rachel Brosnahan, she's going to play Lois Lane. I'd say she's known most for the Amazon series, the marvelous Mrs. Maisel, about
Oh,
the
okay.
the
Hmm.
comedian,
Yeah.
and I think she has this classic look about her. So with what they're going for in what it seems like they're going for in Superman. It was initially called Superman Legacy, but now it's just called Superman. Um,
What is her name again?
Rachel Brosnahan. There's been several hints of what this universe is gonna look like when it comes to Superman.
Hmm.
They're doing a lot of filming right now in Ohio and the Midwest, and there've been some storefronts turned into Daily Planet, and this the font of the storefront has this kind of vintage look from maybe the 90s, early 2000s. So it has some
Hmm.
kind of a retro feel to Metropolis, perhaps. And then there's been a picture, some pictures shown of the farmhouse in
Yeah.
Kansas where Clark Kent lives with his lovely human parents. And it's unlike the grand farmhouse setting we're kind of used to seeing. I think I showed you some pictures probably last
Yeah, I
week,
think
or
you
week
probably did.
before, and it just looks like a normal home to me on a plot of land. And there's nothing that's really strikes me. Oh, that's the home with the white picket fence style, nostalgia filled home where Clark lived his many of his years of his life. But
I don't know. I like this house in the Man of Steel and Justice League and stuff. Like I like
yeah,
their
but
house in
but
that.
it's just like they're both very similar, like very in an isolated area,
Yeah.
plot of land surrounded by looks like vegetation and
So what about
cornfields.
because I
But
sent you a
this
picture.
one just looks like a normal house, and like the
Oh, I
other
see.
houses next door. It's a normal place for anyone else. You like I could live there.
Oh, interesting. Wonder
Yeah,
why he went that way.
I don't know, but the is it Jonathan? Is it that's the father's name?
Jonathan Kent. Yeah.
Yeah, he's they cast some guy forgot the name of him, but see, people are up in arms because the way that the guy looks. Sadly, I don't mind, and I think he's going to be hopefully maybe he hopefully like lives in this movie and he doesn't die like in a lot of the iterations we've seen. I'm trying to think. David Corn Sweat. We got the first reveal, which I've shared as well, and
Hmm.
you've seen it as well of him sitting down.
Putting his shoes
Put
on.
his shoes on, and there's something going on in
Yeah.
outside,
Well,
and people take
it,
it too literally. Sadly, I think they complain
why is he getting dressed when there's
yeah,
something like, dude, it's a picture.
it's a
Like, deal with
picture.
it.
There's some type of conceptual message. There's meaning behind it. I don't think you're supposed to take it
Yeah.
literally. That Superman's just taking his dandy old time putting on a suit.
Yeah, but you know, people on the internet, they got to criticize everything.
Yeah.
Quick on a side note, I read this little, I don't know, tweet or something. It was like it was a guy who he talked about how if he had any issues with schoolwork, he would post it on Reddit, right? And be like asking questions, and then he would sign into a different Reddit and give a completely wrong answer because then people will come in and like try to prove that guy wrong instead of trying to answer the question, right? And he said something like because people will love to argue more than they love to like help people, and that's kind of what that makes me think of is like instead of taking this picture and being like, oh, that's beautiful, you know, they're like, was he? It's like, dude, pump the brakes.
I
it's
mean,
fine.
sure, criticize the suit and whether you like it or not, and you could pick that apart. But just, I don't know,
Thought the suit was fine.
just the whole situation of he's taking his time when there's the city's being blown up. That was kind of what kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah, I
frustrated
did.
me. But
Hmm.
the suit, yeah, it isn't like the trunks are off, or they looks like they've returned the red trunks. If you,
Hmm.
I've seen some edits where they kind of brighten up the picture in terms of exposure, and you could see there's some trunks going on there. I like the hair. This I think it's the only question I have is you can see some creases if it seems like in
Mm. That might
the
not fit
suit
him.
in the outfit,
But
but I'm
he's
sure
not
it's just a
as,
picture. He's not as prominently like
yeah.
big as
Well,
Henry
that's what I was
Cavill,
gonna say. He's
despite
not
that
as
he is taller.
buff. Yeah, he does seem a lot taller, just not as buff as any like modern iteration of Superman. Because like even the older Supermans, they were just like, I don't know. It's the funniest thing. It's like you can kind of be flabby. Christopher Reeves kind of introduced kind of the more muscular Superman. He wasn't even that muscular. But
Yeah.
the George Reeves, he's just like a man in a suit. It's kind of funny. So I found that picture of the DC universe in the Flash. The top part is called Universe Reset, where I guess the Flash kind of resets everything.
Hmm.
And then we have several different things. Chapter one, Gods and Monsters, and then we have DC Elseworlds, is what it's called, and that is Joker, Batman, and I guess another Joker. Oh no, it's Joker and Batman. The first Joker and Batman, Joker two, Batman two, Teen Titans Go, and Superman and Lois are part of the Elseworlds. They have a Swamp Thing film. Did you see that
No,
on this picture? Now I don't know if he's changed anything, but
that's a great show when it
dude,
was
that show
lasted.
was wonderful. I loved it, and it only lasted one season. Like as soon as DC Universe Online came out, they're like, "We're gonna do Swamp Thing," and then as soon as Swamp Thing came out, they're like, "We're gonna cancel Swamp Thing." I was like, "Dude,
Was it around the time when there was all this hubbub
hubbubaloo about DC and
changes?
where it's
Yeah,
gonna go." Yeah, and they just
yeah.
kind of stopped doing things. And I mean, I thought DC Universe Online was a cool service.
Yeah, I remember that. I still have my login information despite
I
no
mean, I
longer
probably do
exists.
too,
I
and
think
my
it does
passwords.
exist. I think for like comic books and
Comic
digital
books, it
comics,
does.
but
Hmm.
just shows they moved to Max.
Yeah, which is fine because I really like Max a lot. But I did think it was kind of cool how DC had its own streaming service and they had original content such as Swamp Thing and Titans and Harley Quinn.
I guess like, what are your hopes? What do you hope to see? What type of Superman do you want to see in
Here's the thing.
the DC of James Gunn? Because you kind of like more the darker tone
I
Superman, but it looks
do.
like we might be having a little mix of brighter, more hopeful
Mhm.
with
I
seriousness because we have other characters that are going to like other superheroes in the Superman movie. It's not just going to be Superman. There's going to be tons of
Yeah,
other superheroes established.
I do think that, and we've talked about this before. We've had a whole episode about this. I do think that James Gunn's going to come in and kind of marvelize everything like he did with the Suicide Squad. Came in and did this. I don't know. I liked Zack Snyder's because the fact that it was so different. You know, you got two separate comic book companies and their films are the same. And it sucks, right? Because there's really not much you can do for an American audience. Like I was actually thinking about this earlier where like we love Godzilla, right? And the Japanese Godzilla, great Godzilla minus one. That's what I was thinking of. I was like, Godzilla minus one with one movie. Great freaking movie. Japanese movie. And then you have the Monsterverse, right? And it's like it just seems like everything now has to be some sort of something verse, right? You have the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now we have this DC universe, and then the MonsterVerse, and it's like even like a TV show within the MonsterVerse. And because I was thinking about that. I was thinking about how like everything just has to be some sort of shared universe now. It seems like with American audiences, and it kind of sucks, but it doesn't. I mean, it's fine. It's more like how it seems like we have to change the tone to be a certain type of movie in order for us to enjoy it. And like I enjoyed Marvel for its thing, and I enjoyed DC for its thing. I
So you think it's
didn't.
going to be similar in
I
tone,
do.
Marvel and
Yes, absolutely.
DC movies?
Yes. That's all. I think that every bit of it's gonna, even Swamp Thing. If the Swamp Thing is real, and like even the Swamp Thing TV show was like a dark, how do I say this, monster type show.
Yeah,
Because that's what Swamp Thing
just
is. He's a
a
monster.
horror movie in a
Yeah.
way, horror
Yeah. Exactly.
series.
And that's what I liked about it. And maybe James Gunn will let whoever directs it kind of take it and run with it. But just from looking at these titles that are on here, I mean, besides the Elseworlds movie, because he's kind of giving Matt Reeves and Todd Phillips,
Todd Phillips, yeah.
yeah, he's kind of letting them kind of have free reign, I think, which is good.
Maybe he's like, just do what you need to get your series, your movies done, so I could
And
focus
so
on my stuff. All the attention can be on my
yeah,
creations.
yeah, I agree. And like some of these things that I haven't heard of, like The Authority, Creature Commandos, or Paradise Lost. I've never really seen. I've heard of Paradise Lost. I've never seen it. I just can tell it's going to be another, Guardians of the Galaxy. Let's take this group of people that nobody knows, which I think in the comics, Guardians of the Galaxy is kind of how they are in the movies. And James Gunn did a great job. Don't get me wrong with Guardians of the Galaxy, but I don't know. Even the original Suicide Squad has its charm. Like the movie.
Yeah,
It sort of has its charm. Yeah, Jared Leto's kind of a weird Joker, but what are you gonna do?
it's different.
Kind of makes up for it in the Justice League, I think.
Yeah, but there's gonna be a little more, I think, more levity for sure, and
Superman.
game guns and DC movies in general. I
Let's
think
hope so.
it's gonna be different, and people are already prepared to, or they're already
Be,
hating on it. So
I say be prepared to be disappointed. No, I'm gonna go into it with an open mind. Everything that comes out, I'll go see everything. The only thing I might not watch is Waller because I do not care for the lady who plays Amanda Waller. I don't care for Amanda Waller. Period. The characters.
they bring back the same actor.
It's the
for
same
that.
actress. It's the same actress. Yeah.
Like,
And like
she's not significant enough, so we'll just have
make
the
a
same
TV
actor.
show. Nah. Oh yeah. I mean, I guess yeah. It's just very. I'm like, why do we need a show about Amanda Waller? Like, there's nothing about her that is
There'll probably be
even
like Secret Wars in terms of like the. It's like, oh, we have these characters. I don't know. Maybe that's a bad comparison, but I don't know. It's just, what are you going to do? Have her like dispatching heroes, and we don't get to see the
exactly.
action on screen because of the budget.
Yeah, and then maybe it's about her, and I'm like, I don't want to know about Amanda Waller.
Because Amanda Waller's daughter is in the Peacemaker uh,
Oh,
series.
really?
Yeah, she's
Okay.
plays a regular role, and Amanda Waller's in it. So, but Peacemaker's going to continue. But it's interesting because it's a product that James Gunn made, so
Right.
he'll
Yeah.
keep
Of
he'll
course,
keep
he's gonna
that.
keep it. I mean, I didn't see it. I
I
did.
enjoyed it. It was very
I
funny.
I found the first season on Blu-ray, so I grabbed it.
Oh, you did. That's
Yeah.
interesting. I don't know many things that are on streaming, but are also have physical copies too.
Well, they've released like some Disney Marvel shows, not Disney Marvel, but Disney shows on Blu-ray that I really want to get. They're on all in Steelbook as well,
Hmm.
like Loki and WandaVision and Mandalorian and all that stuff was released on Steelbook
Awesome.
in Steelbook.
All right. Well, July 11th, I believe, of 2025 is when
Oh wow,
Superman comes out. So it's next year, and then that comes out just weeks before the Fantastic Four reboot and around the same time of the next Jurassic World movie. So there's a lot of good movies
big
coming
movies
out.
coming up.
Big movies. Like, yeah, I shouldn't say they're good, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Especially with Fantastic Four, the next iteration, the latest
Oh boy.
iteration. But it should be interesting. 2025 seems to be a good year of blockbuster movies. The only Marvel product we have out this year is Deadpool, the one with Wolverine. It was Feige or who someone said that they're trying to slow down.
Yeah.
What they're
I'm okay with that.
which is what we've needed for a while.
I think it's more the shows they needed to slow down on. The movies were fine. I think they released maybe two a year. I think that's fine. It's the shows. It's just like you done with one show, instantly another show comes out. And it's not just Marvel, it's Star Wars too.
Yeah.
Like with Acolyte and I've told you this, the first episode, the review I read was like, if you're already this is more for the people who are already too deep in the Star Wars pool. And I thought that was a good way of putting it. Like you love Star Wars so much that you'll watch anything about it that comes out kind of thing. It's like I still haven't watched that or Andor or Boba Fett, it's just or season 3 of Mandalorian.
You'll get to it eventually.
Or the one what's her name? Anakin's protege. The girl. Ahsoka, thank you. I haven't watched that either.
All right. Do you want to close this one out?
Yeah, I guess. It was good talk. I like Superman. Don't get me wrong, and I'm glad we talked about them. I have high hopes for the future. And I still will always cherish Zack Snyder's Superman. I don't know. I just always love it. I think more than a lot of the others. Okay, so yeah, I guess we'll close off with that. And if you like this episode, you can let us know by hitting us up on any other social medias you might have or might not have. Or if you like hearing us talk for at least an hour, you can check us out on any of the cool podcast apps you have on your cell phone. And so thank you for listening and have since Jake's not here, by the way, Jake's not here. I don't know if y'all noticed, we didn't say that at the beginning, but it's just me and Zach today.
So later.
So yeah, have a fantastic day. Bye.